Lisa stared at the coffee mug in her hands, watching the steam rise and disappear into the empty kitchen. The coffee had gone cold 20 minutes ago, but she couldn't bring herself to get up and make a fresh cup. Everything felt too much effort right now. The divorce papers sat on the counter behind her, scattered next to a half-eaten piece of toast and an unopened bottle of vitamins. She'd signed them yesterday morning, right here in this same kitchen, with her lawyer sitting across from her. The pen had felt heavy in her hand, like it weighed 100 pounds. Now those papers just sat there, looking so ordinary for something that had changed her entire life. At 35, Lisa never thought she'd be starting over. When she married Robert 8 years ago, she'd imagined growing old together in their little house with the blue shutters. She'd pictured Sunday morning pancakes, arguments about whose turn it was to take out the trash, maybe even kids running around the backyard. Instead, she was sitting in a rental house she could barely afford, surrounded by boxes she hadn't bothered to unpack. The moving truck had left 3 days ago, and she still hadn't put anything away properly. Her clothes were living out of suitcases. Her books were stacked in corners. The television sat on the floor because she hadn't figured out where to put it yet. Everything felt temporary, like she was camping in her own life. She walked to the living room window and looked out at the street. It was a nice neighborhood, the kind where people actually knew each other's names and waved when they walked their dogs. At least that's what the landlord had told her when she signed the lease. So far, she'd managed to avoid talking to anyone. She wasn't ready for the questions, the sympathetic looks, the awkward conversations about what had happened. The house next door was painted yellow with white trim. She'd seen the owner a few times, a man about her age who seemed to work from home. He had a small garden in his front yard and always kept his lawn neat. Sometimes she'd catch him looking over when she was bringing in groceries, but they'd never spoken. She preferred it that way right now. Lisa's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She already knew who it was before she looked. Her sister had been calling every few hours since the divorce was finalized, checking in with the kind of worried voice that made Lisa feel like a patient in the hospital. "Hey, Jenny," she answered, trying to sound normal. "How are you holding up? Did you eat anything today?" Lisa looked at the piece of toast she'd abandoned. "I'm fine. I had breakfast." "Lisa, you don't sound fine. You sound tired. Are you sleeping?" She wasn't sleeping. She'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to all the new sounds this house made. The old house had its own noises she'd gotten used to over the years. The way the refrigerator hummed, how the stairs creaked, the sound of Robert's breathing next to her. This place was full of unfamiliar sounds that kept her awake. "I'm adjusting," she said. "It takes time. Maybe you should come stay with us for a while. The kids would love to see their aunt." The offer was tempting. Jenny's house was always full of noise and chaos. Her 2 boys running around, the dog barking, cartoons playing on television. It would be a distraction from the silence that seemed to follow her everywhere now, but she knew she couldn't hide at her sister's house forever. "I need to figure this out on my own," Lisa said. "I'll be okay." After she hung up, the quiet felt even heavier. She tried turning on the television, but the voices felt fake and too cheerful. She tried reading, but the words just blurred together. She even considered unpacking some boxes, but every item reminded her of the life she was leaving behind. The coffee maker, a wedding gift from Robert's parents, the throw pillows she'd picked out for their first apartment, the framed photo of their honeymoon in Maine. She'd shoved that one deep in a box, but she knew it was there. Around lunchtime, she ordered Chinese food from a place down the street. When the delivery driver knocked, she realized it was the first person she'd spoken to face-to-face in 2 days, besides the brief conversation with Jenny on the phone. "Nice neighborhood," the driver said, handing her the bag. "Yeah, it seems quiet. Good people around here. The guy next door tips really well." Lisa glanced toward the yellow house. "That's good to know." She ate the lo mein straight from the container while standing at the kitchen counter, looking out at the backyard. It was bigger than their old yard, with an old oak tree that would probably be beautiful in the fall. Maybe she'd get a chair for out there, somewhere to sit and drink coffee in the mornings. The afternoon dragged on. She tried calling her mom but got voicemail. She scrolled through social media, but seeing everyone else's happy updates just made her feel worse. She considered going to the grocery store, but that meant getting dressed and putting on a fake smile for the cashier. By evening, she'd managed to unpack exactly 1 box, the one with kitchen towels and oven mitts. It felt like a small victory, though she wasn't sure why. She ordered pizza for dinner, from the same place she'd ordered from the night before and the night before that. The teenager who delivered it looked familiar now. "You just move in?" he asked. "A few days ago." "Cool. Welcome to the neighborhood. My mom lives on the next street over. She said to tell new neighbors that there's a block party every summer. Pretty fun." Lisa nodded, though she couldn't imagine attending a block party right now. The thought of making small talk with strangers, of explaining why she was alone, made her stomach tight. As darkness fell, she found herself back at the living room window. The yellow house next door had lights on in what looked like a home office. She could see the glow of a computer screen through the window. At least someone was having a productive evening. She thought about Robert, probably eating dinner at his new apartment across town. Was he unpacking boxes too? Did he feel this same strange emptiness, or was he relieved to finally be free? Their marriage had been struggling for so long that the end almost felt inevitable. But that didn't make it hurt less. Lisa made herself a cup of tea and sat on the couch, the one piece of furniture that felt familiar in this strange new space. Tomorrow, she promised herself, she'd unpack another box, maybe 2 boxes. Maybe she'd even wave at the neighbor if she saw him in his garden. But tonight, she was just going to sit in the quiet and let herself feel lost. Sometimes, she thought, that was okay too. Lisa was still in her pajamas at 10 in the morning when someone knocked on her front door. She froze, coffee cup halfway to her lips. Nobody knew where she lived yet except Jenny, and her sister would have called first. The knock came again, gentle but persistent. Lisa tiptoed to the front window and peeked through the blinds. It was her neighbor from the yellow house, the one with the neat garden she'd been watching from her window. He was standing on her porch holding something in his hands, shifting his weight from one foot to the other like he was nervous. She looked down at herself. Oversized t-shirt, flannel pajama pants with coffee stains, hair that hadn't seen a brush in 2 days. This was not how she'd planned to meet anyone, let alone a neighbor who seemed to have his life together. Another knock, softer this time. Lisa crept to the door and spoke through it.
"Can I help you?"
"Hi, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm Tom from next door. I just wanted to, I brought something over." She pressed her forehead against the door. Of course this was happening now, when she looked like she'd been living in the woods for a week. But something in his voice made her curious. He sounded almost as awkward as she felt. "Just a second," she called out, then ran to the bathroom mirror. Her reflection made her wince. She splashed water on her face, ran her fingers through her hair, and decided this was as good as it was going to get. When she opened the door, Tom was looking at his shoes. He had brown hair that needed a cut, and was wearing a paint-stained sweatshirt. In his hands was a glass container with a lid. "Hi," he said, looking up with a quick smile. "I'm really sorry to bother you so early. I know you just moved in and probably have a million things to do." "It's okay," Lisa said, though she wasn't sure it was. Tom held out the container. "My mom made soup yesterday and sent me home with way too much. I was going to freeze it, but then I thought maybe. Moving is stressful and cooking is probably the last thing you want to deal with." Lisa stared at the container. When was the last time someone had brought her food just to be kind? "That's really nice of you. It's chicken and rice. Nothing fancy, but it's good when you're tired." He paused. "Which you probably are. From moving and all." She took the container from him. It was still warm. "Thank you. I'm Lisa. Nice to meet you, Lisa." Tom glanced past her into the house, probably seeing the boxes stacked everywhere. "How's the settling in going?" Lisa almost laughed. If only he knew. Slowly. Very slowly. "I remember when I moved in 3 years ago. I lived out of boxes for months. Couldn't find anything. I was brushing my teeth with a washcloth for a week because I couldn't remember which box had my toothbrush." That made her smile. "I'm not quite there yet, but I can see how it happens." They stood there for a moment, not quite sure what to say next. Tom looked like he was about to leave, but then he hesitated. "I don't want to be nosy, but I noticed the moving truck the other day. Are you here alone, or is your family coming later?" The question hit harder than it should have. Lisa felt her throat tighten. "It's just me." Something in her voice must have given her away because Tom's expression changed. He looked concerned, like he wanted to ask more but knew he shouldn't. "Well, if you need anything, and I mean anything, I'm right next door. I work from home, so I'm around most of the time." "What kind of work do you do?" "Graphic design. Nothing too exciting, but it pays the bills and I can wear pajamas to work." He grinned. though I try to change before I go outside, unlike some people. Lisa looked down at her flannel pants and felt her face get hot. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I wasn't expecting anyone and I haven't really been, hey, no judgment here. I once answered the door in my underwear because I thought it was a package delivery. Turned out to be the mail carrier with something that needed a signature. We both pretended it didn't happen. Lisa laughed despite herself. It felt strange to laugh, like using a muscle she'd forgotten she had. The soup smells amazing, she said, lifting the container slightly. Mom's secret ingredient is love, and probably too much salt, but don't tell her I said that. Your mom sounds sweet. She is. She's also convinced that single people don't eat real food, so she's always sending me home with extras. Last week it was a whole lasagna. I had to give half of it to the mailman. Single people. So he wasn't married either. Lisa filed that information away without really meaning to. I should let you get back to unpacking, Tom said. But seriously, if you need anything, if your internet goes out, or you can't figure out the garbage pickup day, or you just want someone to complain to about how nothing fits where you want it to, just knock. Thank you. That's really kind. Tom started to walk away, then turned back. Oh, and if you hear weird noises from my house, don't worry. I have a daughter who visits on weekends, and she's convinced my living room is the perfect place to practice her tap dancing. How old is she? 9 going on 25. She has opinions about everything, especially my cooking and my haircut. He ran his hand through his messy hair. She might be right about the haircut. Lisa found herself smiling again. I'm sure it's fine. You're being polite. But I appreciate it. After Tom left, Lisa stood in her doorway for a moment, watching him walk back to his house. He had a slight limp, she noticed, favoring his left leg. When he got to his door, he turned and waved, catching her still standing there. She waved back, feeling embarrassed but also oddly warm. Inside, she opened the soup container and the smell filled her kitchen. Real chicken, real vegetables, the kind of soup that took hours to make. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until that moment. She heated up a bowl and sat at her kitchen table, the one piece of furniture she'd managed to set up properly. The soup was perfect, warm and comforting in a way that reminded her of being sick as a child and having her mom take care of her. While she ate, she thought about Tom. He seemed genuinely nice, not just polite nice. The way he'd mentioned his daughter so naturally, the story about his mom, even the awkward comment about pajamas. It all felt real. She'd been so focused on protecting herself from more pain that she'd forgotten there were still good people in the world. Her phone rang. Jenny again. How are you feeling today? Her sister asked. Lisa looked at the half-empty soup bowl, thought about Tom's kind eyes and easy laugh. A little better, she said, and meant it. 3 weeks had passed since Tom brought over the soup, and Lisa was starting to feel almost human again. She'd unpacked most of her boxes, hung pictures on the walls, and even bought a small plant for the kitchen windowsill. The house was beginning to feel less like a temporary hiding place and more like home. She was watering the plant on a Thursday morning when she heard Tom's voice from the backyard next door. No, sweetheart, you can't use the good shovel for digging to China. Use the little one. Lisa peeked through her kitchen window and saw Tom kneeling in his garden next to a small girl with pigtails and dirt-covered hands. This had to be his daughter, the one who practiced tap dancing in his living room. But the big shovel digs faster, the girl said, holding up Tom's garden spade. The big shovel also breaks my tomato plants faster, Tom replied, gently taking it from her. Besides, if you actually dig to China, who's going to help me make pancakes? The girl considered this seriously. Maybe the people in China like pancakes too. Lisa found herself smiling as she watched them. Tom was so patient, explaining things without talking down to his daughter. She remembered Robert getting frustrated when neighborhood kids would run through their old yard, complaining about the noise and mess. Tom seemed to actually enjoy having a child around. A few minutes later, there was a knock at her door. When she opened it, Tom was standing there with his daughter, both of them covered in garden dirt. Hi, Lisa. I wanted you to meet my daughter, Katie. Katie, this is our neighbor, Ms. Lisa. The little girl looked up at Lisa with curious brown eyes. Daddy says you just moved here and don't know anybody yet. Katie, Tom said, his face turning slightly pink. It's okay, Lisa laughed. She's right. I don't know very many people yet. Do you want to know us? Katie asked. We're pretty nice. Daddy makes good pancakes and I can do a cartwheel. I would love to know you both, Lisa said. We're about to go inside and clean up for lunch, Tom said. Would you like to join us? It's nothing fancy, just grilled cheese. Lisa almost said no out of habit, but something about Katie's expectant face made her pause. When was the last time she'd eaten a meal with other people? That sounds nice, she said. Tom's kitchen was warm and lived in, with drawings stuck to the refrigerator and a coffee mug collection on the windowsill. Katie chattered nonstop while Tom made sandwiches, telling Lisa about her school, her best friend who had a pet hamster, and her theory that vegetables tasted better if you ate them with your fingers. Daddy doesn't let me eat everything with my fingers, Katie explained, accepting a plate from Tom. But carrots are definitely a finger food. What about soup? Lisa asked, playing along. Katie giggled. That would be messy. You'd need a really big finger. Over lunch, Lisa learned that Katie lived with her mom most of the time but spent every other weekend with Tom. She was in 3rd grade and wanted to be either a veterinarian or a professional dancer when she grew up. Maybe both. Can you dance and take care of animals at the same time? Lisa asked. I'll dance for the animals to make them feel better, Katie said matter-of-factly. Dogs probably like dancing. After Katie went upstairs to play, Tom and Lisa sat at the kitchen table with second cups of coffee. She's wonderful, Lisa said. You're lucky, thanks. She keeps me on my toes. Tom stirred his coffee thoughtfully. The divorce was hard on her, but kids are more resilient than we think sometimes. Lisa nodded. She'd been wondering about Tom's story but hadn't wanted to ask. How long has it been? She asked. 2 years since it was final. 3 since we separated. Tom looked out the window toward his garden. It was one of those situations where we were better as friends than as married people. We just wanted different things. Lisa understood that feeling. She and Robert had grown into different people over the years until they felt like strangers living in the same house. Katie seems to be doing well with it, she said. Most days. She still asks sometimes if her mom and I will get back together, but she's getting used to having 2 homes. Tom looked at Lisa. What about you? Do you have kids? No, Lisa said quietly. We tried for a while, but it never happened. Probably for the best, considering how things ended up. Tom reached across the table and touched her hand briefly. I'm sorry. That must have been hard. It was the first time anyone had acknowledged that part of her loss. Everyone focused on the divorce, the practical matters of splitting up a life. Nobody talked about the children that would never exist, the family she'd imagined that would never be. It was, she said, but I'm starting to think maybe there are different ways to have a family. The following week, Lisa's kitchen faucet started leaking. She called her landlord, but he said he couldn't get a plumber out until the following Monday. By Friday, the drip had become a steady stream. She was standing in her kitchen staring at the growing puddle when Tom appeared at her back door. I saw you looking frustrated through the window, he said. Everything okay? Lisa explained about the faucet. Tom listened, then asked if she had a toolbox. I have a hammer and some screwdrivers, Lisa said. That's about it. Let me grab my tools. I might be able to fix it or at least stop the leak until the plumber comes. 20 minutes later, Tom had the faucet apart on her kitchen counter. His hands moved confidently as he examined the pieces. See this rubber washer? He said, holding up a small black ring. It's worn out. That's why it's leaking. Is it fixable? I think I have a replacement at home. Give me 5 minutes. While he was gone, Lisa made coffee. It felt strange having someone in her space, but good strange. The house had been so quiet for weeks. Tom came back with a small box of washers and got to work. Within 10 minutes, the faucet was working perfectly. You're a lifesaver, Lisa said. How much do I owe you? Tom looked genuinely confused. For what? A 50-cent washer in 10 minutes? Don't be silly. But you fixed my problem. I would have had to deal with that mess all weekend. That's what neighbors do, Tom said, packing up his tools. Besides, you listened to Katie talk about hamsters for an hour last week. I'd say we're even, that evening. Lisa made a casserole and brought half of it over to Tom's house. When he answered the door, she could hear music playing inside. Katie's practicing her routine for a school talent show, he explained over the sound of enthusiastic tap dancing. Fair warning, she's going to want to perform it for you. I'd love to see it, Lisa said. Surprising herself, as she walked home later, after watching Katie's elaborate dance routine and helping with the dinner dishes, Lisa realized something had shifted. For the first time since her divorce, she hadn't thought about Robert or her old life for an entire evening. She'd been too busy living in the present, laughing at Katie's jokes and enjoying Tom's easy conversation. The loneliness was still there, but it felt less heavy now. Like maybe she wasn't as alone as she'd thought. Lisa was having a good day until her phone buzzed at 6 in the evening. She'd spent the afternoon organizing her closet and felt proud of the progress. For the first time in weeks, her bedroom looked like it belonged to someone who had their life together. Then she saw Robert's name on the screen. The text was long and angry. He wanted to know why she'd taken the good coffee maker. He said she was being unreasonable about splitting their savings account. He accused her of hiding money and threatened to get lawyers involved if she didn't respond immediately. Lisa stared at the phone, her hands shaking. They'd already divided everything through mediation. She'd been more than fair, taking only what she needed to start over. The coffee maker had been hers before they got married. The savings account had been split exactly down the middle. Another text came through, then another. Each one was angrier than the last. Robert was using the tone he'd perfected during their worst fights, the one that made her feel small and stupid and wrong about everything. Her chest started feeling tight. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of, that even though the divorce was final, he could still reach her whenever he wanted. Still make her feel like she was the problem. She tried to type a response, but her fingers wouldn't work properly. What could she say that wouldn't make things worse? She'd learned during their marriage that defending herself only made him angrier. By the fourth text, Lisa was crying. She walked outside to her backyard, hoping the fresh air would help her think clearly. But the tears wouldn't stop coming. All the progress she'd made, all the strength she'd built up over the past month, felt like it was crumbling. She sat down on the back steps and put her head in her hands. The worst part was that Robert was still in her head, still making her question herself. Maybe she had been unfair about the coffee maker. Maybe she was being too sensitive about the way he talked to her. "Lisa, are you okay?" She looked up to see Tom climbing over the low fence between their yards. His face was full of concern. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, wiping her eyes. "I didn't mean to be loud. I was just... You don't need to apologize." Tom sat down beside her on the steps, not too close, but near enough that she didn't feel alone. "What happened?" Lisa showed him the texts. Tom read them silently, his jaw getting tighter with each message. "This is not okay," he said finally. "He can't talk to you like this. We were married for 8 years. Maybe I do owe him an explanation about the coffee maker." Tom turned to look at her directly. "Lisa, you don't owe him anything. You especially don't owe him the right to make you cry on your own back." Steps. Something in his voice, the quiet. Anger on her behalf made her cry harder. "I don't know why I'm falling apart over this," she said. "The divorce has been final for months. I should be stronger by now." "How long did he talk to you like this when you were married?" The question hit her like a punch. "What do you mean?" "These texts, this isn't new behavior, is it? The way he's trying to make you feel guilty and confused." Lisa stared at the ground. She'd never said it out loud before, not to Jenny, not to her lawyer, not even to herself, really. "He never hit me," she said quietly. "That's not what I asked." She was quiet for a long time. Tom didn't push, just sat there waiting. "He made me feel like I was always doing everything wrong," she finally said. "Like I was too sensitive, too emotional, too much. When we fought, it was always my fault somehow. Even when I knew he was being unfair, he could make me believe I was the problem." Tom nodded like he understood exactly what she meant. "My ex-wife used to do something similar," he said, not with anger, but with disappointment. "She could make me feel like I was never enough, never successful enough, never interesting enough, never the man she'd thought she was marrying." Lisa looked at him in surprise. Tom always seemed so confident, so sure of himself. "Really? Really? For years I bent myself into impossible shapes trying to make her happy. I changed jobs, changed hobbies, changed the way I dressed. But it was never enough because the problem wasn't me. The problem was that she'd decided I wasn't who she wanted, but she couldn't admit it to herself." "How did you figure that out?" Tom was quiet for a moment. "Therapy and time, and realizing that Katie loved me exactly as I was, messy hair and dad jokes and all. If a 9-year-old could see my worth, maybe I wasn't as broken as I thought." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun started to set. Lisa felt calmer than she had all evening. "I keep waiting to feel normal again," she said. "Like there's going to be some moment when I wake up and feel like myself. What if this is normal now?" Tom asked gently. What if normal isn't going back to who you were before but figuring out who you are now? Lisa had never thought of it that way. She'd been so focused on getting back to some earlier version of herself that she hadn't considered becoming someone new. I used to love cooking, she said suddenly. Before Robert and I got married, I cooked all the time. I'd try new recipes, experiment with different ingredients. But he was so picky and he had opinions about everything I made. Eventually, I just stopped trying. What's stopping you from starting again? Nothing, I guess. Except I forgot how. Katie and I are always up for trying new food. Fair warning, though. She has strong opinions about vegetables. Lisa smiled. I remember. As the sky grew darker, Tom started to stand up. I should let you get some rest. Thank you, Lisa said. For listening. For not making me feel crazy. You're not crazy. You're healing. There's a difference. He paused at the fence. Lisa, about those texts. You don't have to respond to them. You can block his number if you want. You don't owe him access to your peace of mind. After Tom went inside, Lisa sat outside for a while longer. She thought about what he'd said about becoming someone new instead of trying to go back. Maybe that's what she'd been doing wrong. Trying to resurrect the person she'd been before Robert, instead of discovering who she could become after him. She looked at her phone, at the angry texts that had seemed so important an hour ago. Now they just looked like words from someone who couldn't accept that she was no longer his to control. For the first time since her divorce, Lisa deleted messages from Robert without reading them all the way through. Then she went inside and made herself a cup of tea, thinking about what she might cook for dinner tomorrow. Maybe something she'd never tried before, something Robert would have hated, but that she might love. 6 months after moving into the yellow house next to Tom's, Lisa was making dinner when she saw the moving truck pull up across the street. She watched through her kitchen window as movers carried boxes into the small blue house that had been empty since she'd arrived. A woman about her age got out of a sedan, looking tired and overwhelmed. She stood on the sidewalk for a moment, staring at the house like she couldn't quite believe this was her life now. Lisa recognized that look. She'd worn it herself not so long ago. New neighbor? Tom asked, appearing at her back door with Katie trailing behind him. They'd gotten into the habit of having dinner together most weekends, taking turns cooking. Tonight was Lisa's turn, and the smell of her homemade lasagna was filling both their kitchens. Looks like it, Lisa said, still watching the woman across the street. She looks like she could use a friend. Katie pressed her nose against the window. Why does she look sad? Sometimes moving is hard, Lisa explained, especially when you're doing it by yourself. Like you did? Exactly like I did. After dinner, while Tom and Katie were loading the dishwasher, Lisa made a decision. She'd been experimenting with new recipes again, rediscovering her love of cooking. Yesterday, she'd made a pot of vegetable soup that was too big for one person. I'll be right back, she told Tom, grabbing the container of leftover soup from her refrigerator. The woman across the street was sitting on her front steps, looking at boxes like they were mountains she had to climb. When Lisa approached, she looked up with startled eyes. Hi, Lisa said gently. I'm Lisa. I live in the yellow house across the street. I saw you moving in and thought you might be hungry. The woman stared at the soup container like it was the most surprising thing she'd ever seen. I'm Amy, she said finally. And yes, I'm starving. I haven't eaten anything real in 2 days. Lisa sat down on the steps beside her. Moving is exhausting. I did it 6 months ago and survived on takeout pizza for weeks. Just you? Amy asked. Moving by yourself? Just me. Fresh divorce, new start, all of it. Amy's shoulders seemed to relax slightly. Me too, 3 weeks ago. I keep thinking I should feel relieved, but mostly I just feel scared. Lisa remembered that feeling exactly. That's normal. Everything feels uncertain when you're starting over. Did it get easier? Lisa looked back across the street at her house, where Tom and Katie were probably arguing about whose turn it was to take out the trash. 6 months ago, she'd been eating cold Chinese food alone, crying over paperwork. Now she was making homemade soup and having family dinners with people who cared about her. It got different, she said honestly. Better, but different. You have to figure out who you are when you're not half of a couple anymore. Amy opened the soup container and breathed in the steam. This smells incredible. Family recipe. Well, my attempt at recreating my grandmother's recipe, it's probably not quite right, but it's close. I haven't cooked anything real in months. My ex-husband was... particular about food. It was easier to just order out or make whatever he wanted. Lisa knew that feeling too. I used to love cooking. Took me months to remember that after my divorce. They sat quietly while Amy ate the soup. Lisa could see the exact moment when some of the tension left her shoulders. The same moment Lisa had experienced when Tom brought her that first container of soup. "This is really good," Amy said. "Thank you. I can't remember the last time someone just did something nice for me. The man who lives next to me brought me soup my first week here. I was in my pajamas at 10 in the morning, crying over divorce papers, and he showed up with homemade chicken soup. Changed everything. Is he your boyfriend now?" Amy asked with a small smile. Lisa laughed. "No, he's my friend. One of the best friends I've ever had, actually. He's got a daughter who visits on weekends and keeps us both entertained with her dancing career plans. Just friends. Just friends. Though I won't lie, there are moments when I wonder what might happen someday when we're both ready. But right now, friendship is exactly what I need. What we both need." Amy nodded like she understood. "I don't think I could handle anything complicated right now." "Then don't. Take your time. Figure out what you like for breakfast when no one else is there to have opinions about it. Paint your walls whatever color makes you happy. Learn who you are when you're not trying to make someone else comfortable." "How did you do it? Figure out who you were?" Lisa thought about all the small moments that had added up to this feeling of being herself again. The first time she'd cooked something Robert would have hated. The afternoon she'd spent an entire day reading without feeling guilty about it. The morning she'd looked in the mirror and liked what she saw, little by little, and with help. Tom fixed my leaky faucet and listened when I needed to talk. His daughter taught me that it's okay to be silly sometimes. My sister called every day until I was ready to call her back. It takes a village to put yourself back together. "I don't have a village yet. You have me," Lisa said. "And probably Tom and Katie if you want them. We're pretty good at welcoming people who need a soft place to land." Amy's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know why you're being so nice to me." "Because 6 months ago I was sitting exactly where you are and someone was nice to me. It made all the difference." As the sun began to set, Lisa helped Amy carry a few boxes inside. The house was small but had good light and hardwood floors that would be beautiful once Amy had time to appreciate them. "There's a block party next month," Lisa mentioned as they worked. "Nothing fancy, just neighbors hanging out. You should come." I'm not really good with crowds right now. Neither was I. Tom basically had to drag me out of my house, but it was worth it. There's something healing about being around people who don't know your whole story, who just accept you as you are right now. When Lisa got home, Tom was sitting on her front steps waiting for her. "How'd it go?" he asked. "She's going to be okay. She just needs time and some friendly faces." "Good. Katie wants to know if the new neighbor likes tap dancing." Lisa laughed. "I'll ask next time I see her." They sat together on the steps as the stars came out, the same steps where Lisa had broken down crying months ago. It felt like a lifetime ago, but also like yesterday. "Thank you," she said suddenly. "For what?" "For knocking on my door that morning. For bringing soup. For showing me that there were still good people in the world." Tom smiled. "Thank you for opening the door. Even though I was in my pajamas? Especially because you were in your pajamas. Showed me you were brave enough to be yourself even when it was scary." Lisa looked across the street at Amy's house where one light glowed in the kitchen window. Tomorrow she'd check in, maybe bring over some coffee. Maybe invite her to dinner with Tom and Katie. Small kindnesses that added up to something bigger. A life built on connection instead of isolation. She'd thought she was alone that morning after her divorce. She'd been wrong. She just needed to learn how to let people in, Ursation at a time.